Hi, I see we have a lot of audience coming in already. I think we'll get started. It's so good to see all of you here today. My name is Nan. I work at Asian American Business Development Center. As part of our Small Business Technical Assistance Program, we're so excited to bring this important webinar to help small business owners get more information on social media marketing strategies. Sha-Lene, our amazing speaker today, is a digital strategist on the global sales and enablement team at IBM. She specializes in social selling, employee engagement, and project management. Sha-Lene was born and raised in Malaysia, studied journalism in Australia, and went to grad school in sunny California for a master's degree in strategic public relations. And throughout this webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A session, and Sha-Lene will answer them during the exercises or at the end during the Q&A session. So without further ado, I'll give it to our amazing speaker, Sha-Lene. Thank you, Sha-Lene, and look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Sha-Lene Pung from Austin, Texas. And thank you so much to all of you for attending. And thank you to the Asian American Business Development Center for inviting me to speak to all of you. As Nan said, I am a digital strategist on the sales enablement team at IBM, and I specialize in social selling strategy and digital experiences for our IBM sales force. Before I started working at IBM, I built a small online business way back in 2008. So I was also a small business owner myself. So today, I'm so excited to share with you some foundational knowledge about social media marketing that I've learned through my work and personal experiences. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to put it in the Q&A section on your screen. This webinar is divided into 5 sections with 3 exercises I'd love for you to start doing with me during this webinar. First, we'll cover what is social media marketing, how it fits into your marketing plan, and do a branding exercise. Second, let's talk about the different social media platforms out there and how you can determine which platform your business should be on, followed by a channel audit exercise. Third, we'll talk about content. What are the different types of content? How to develop engaging content, crisis management, and how to evaluate your content. Fourth, we'll briefly cover the basics of audience and community engagement before closing with next steps and more resources for you. While we are covering a lot of information in this webinar, my goal is to give you an introduction of the main concepts and considerations you need to keep in mind when you're developing your social media marketing plans. More often than not, I hear small business owners say they don't know what they don't know. So I hope that this will help address that need. With that, let's dive into what social media marketing means. Okay, what's social media marketing? It just means that you're using social media to connect with your audience. Your goals are to build your brand, increase sales, and in most cases, drive website traffic. If we can take one step back to set some context, one of my favorite models to follow for marketing is the PESO model: paid, earned, shared, and owned media. When you're building your digital marketing plan, or if you already have one and you're improving it, check it against the PESO model. You'll see that social media marketing appears in multiple segments: social media ads under paid media, influencers under earned media, and so much more. Now, I decided to include the PESO model in here because it's important to remember that social media marketing is only one sales play among many others. So while it shouldn't be the only tactic you use, it's also important to make sure that all your tactics make sense together. With that said, why is social media so important? I mean, over 3.6 billion people use social media globally. 81% of consumers research online before purchasing a product or service. 71% of consumers who have had a good social media experience with a brand are likely to recommend it to others. And being reachable on social media makes consumers 21% more likely to buy from your business. And for B2B buyers, 50% of them use LinkedIn when making purchasing decisions. Nowadays, businesses can use social media in many different ways. For example, a business that's concerned about what people are saying about its brand can monitor social media conversations and respond to relevant mentions. A business that wants to understand how it's performing on social media would analyze its reach, engagement, and sales on social media with an analytics tool. A business that wants to reach a specific audience set at scale would run highly targeted social media ads. But where do you even start? Start here. Start with developing a clear and consistent brand presence on social media. By being clear and consistent about your brand, who you are, and what your business is about, it helps your audience and your consumers build a relationship with you, going beyond once-off transactions and building brand loyalty, and sometimes even a sense of community. When we talk about branding, always remember that your personal brand on social media reflects on your business. So as business owners, carefully curate your personal brand online as well. Sometimes it means building a strong online network on LinkedIn with other business owners in your industry. And sometimes that means asking yourself this question before you post something on your private Facebook profile. Am I okay if someone takes a screenshot of my private Facebook post and puts it on the CNN.com homepage tomorrow? If you're okay, then post it. If you're not okay, don't post it. Back to the business brand, it's incredibly important to be able to answer, what do you want people to think of when they think of your business? The clearer your brand, the more recognizable your brand name or logo. For example, you automatically think of the Google homepage when anyone talks about searching for something on the internet. And if you order something from Amazon, you know it's going to arrive at your door within days. When you think of Louis Vuitton, not only did they set themselves apart by charging high prices, but they also have a signature design seen on handbags and many other products. Their branding means they're now top of mind when anyone thinks of high fashion. And Nike was already a huge company when they teamed up with Michael Jordan. But when they released his signature basketball shoes, they became the leading player in the industry. Now they pay a tremendous amount of money to athletes all over the world, but they're profitable. So it's useful to partner with influencers. Let's walk through a quick exercise that will help your business get there. This here is a branding exercise we developed to help anyone decide what their personal or business brand is. What do you want people to think of you or your business? Ask yourself the following questions. First, how do you want to be perceived as a person? Let's take the example of a restaurant owner. She could say, when someone thinks of my name, I want them to think of a chef, entrepreneur, and a mother. I also want them to remember that I'm passionate about the cultural heritage reflected through food. Second, how do you want your business to be perceived? So first question was for a person. The second is for your business. If we look at the same restaurant owner example, she could say she wants her business to be perceived as providing affordable and delicious Southeast Asian food in Houston, for example, where they share their cultural heritage with you through her perhaps great-grandmother's family recipes. Lastly, what business outcomes would you like from engaging in social media? For example, you could say you need to use Instagram to promote a series of Southeast Asian food origin stories with a call to action to promote online orders. Your goal could be to increase those orders by, for example, 50% during the first 3 months of the pandemic. So please take a minute now to think about these questions and jot down some answers you can build on later. Also, please remember that your brand can evolve and also change over time. So it's a good idea to revisit this periodically and ask yourself, hey, am I staying true to my brand in all my online and offline interactions? Do I need to change it? Okay, so I'm going to pause for a minute so you can take a closer look at this exercise and get started, jot down some notes. Now feel free to put any thoughts in chat or questions in the Q&A section. So just a reminder, we're pausing for a minute so that you can take a look at this exercise and start to jot down some answers and thoughts. Feel free to put your thoughts in the chat or post questions in the Q&A section that I'll be monitoring. Okay, the minute is up and I didn't see any questions in Q&A or in chat, so let's move on to the next part. There will be a Q&A section at the end of this, so no worries if a question comes to you later. Now next, because social media marketing is about the use of social media platforms to connect with your audience, it's important to have an idea of the different social media platforms out there today. You'll use them to publish content, listen to and engage with your followers, analyze your results, run social media ads. The major social media platforms relevant to small and medium businesses at the moment are Yelp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, Google Reviews, Snapchat, and TikTok. Now, because social media marketing is all about meeting your target audience and your customers where they are and as they socially interact with each other and your brand. So when starting out, it's better to pick a few key platforms that you think your target audience is on, rather than try to be on all the different platforms. There are always going to be up and coming social media platforms, but for small businesses, it's more important to focus on the 2 or 3 places you can really maximize your return on investment for your time and energy. For example, a good way to find out where people are talking about your business is to Google your business name or even your competitor's name. Based on what shows up, that might help you decide which platform to start with. Now, once you understand who your audience is and where they are on social media, you can look up your competitors to see what's working or what isn't working based on their social media presence on those platforms. Now, many of you already have social media channels across different platforms, or some of you may not have any. So let's take a few minutes now to walk you through a really important step in creating a strong social media strategy: regularly auditing your social media channels. First, find out all the platforms your business has a social media presence on. Then ask yourself, should you have a presence on this platform? Who is your target audience? Are you a B2B or a B2C business? Because that impacts your decision on which platforms are right for you. For example, LinkedIn is great for B2B, while Facebook is great for B2C. There are also a few other important questions to ask yourself in the audit, such as, how are visitors going to find their way to that platform? Are you putting all your social media links on your website or doing ads? Do you currently have an updated profile? Do you have a scheduled plan to update those profiles, respond, and engage with your audiences on those channels? For example, is it 3 times a day, or once every weekday? Who is responsible for each platform? And lastly, how will you track your performance on the platform? let's take a minute now to pause and look at this exercise. And later, please take the time to go over this exercise and make sure you have a solid plan for each platform that you choose for your business to be on. I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock. Again, feel free to put any thoughts in chat or questions in the Q&A section. I'm going to pause for a minute so you can take a look at this exercise. I'm presenting on the webinar. Yes, absolutely. You can get a copy of this presentation after the meeting. AABDC will be sending out the presentation after this, as well as a replay. All right. Again, I don't see any questions in the Q&A section, but again, feel free to put it in chat or at the end in the Q&A segment of this webinar. All right, so now that the minute's up, let's move on. Now that we've talked about branding and platforms, let's talk about social media content. There are two types of content on social media. Based on the idea of push and pull marketing, push content is pushing your message in front of your ideal client, whereas pull content is about attracting your clients to you. Here's a great example of how push content was used well on social media. During National Pizza Month in 2019, DiGiorno offered free pizza to customers who tweeted #DeliveryDiGiorno. After all, it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. The campaign was brilliant because it played on their best known slogan. On the flip side, pull marketing is especially effective on social media because it thrives on social sharing and word of mouth between consumers. Social pull focuses very much on building brand awareness and increasing visibility. For example, when something goes viral, it means it's being shared many times over by an audience. Think of Nike's The Switch video featuring soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo. To date, it's received more than 64 million views, many due in part to social media shares. The more subtle nature of pull marketing, which creates interest but doesn't hard sell to viewers, helps build relationships between a brand and its consumers. Essentially, you produce something of interest that consumers want to check out. For example, the Getty Museum's digital marketing team took advantage of user-generated content and turned a trending social media challenge into a campaign. What happened was a personal Instagram account began challenging followers to recreate famous artworks with household items under the hashtag #BetweenArtAndQuarantine. During a difficult time, it helped build brand awareness and bring art lovers in the museum world together, even with everyone remaining at a distance. Another example is Chipotle, which has a really fun TikTok challenge series like the #Chipotle lid flip and #guac dance, which pulls people in to engage with their brand and indirectly promote Chipotle. So, what type of content would suit your brand? Ask yourself questions like, what tone does your brand have? Is it quirky, bold, funny, nerdy? It goes back to that branding exercise we did earlier. Second question, what's your content balance? For example, is 50% of your content going to be, for example, bite-sized educational information, while 20% is going to take advantage of trending topics? Next, how often should you post? What times or days are your audience on the platform you're using? It's also a great idea to build a simple editorial calendar for the year so you can plan your content ahead of time, like Lunar New Year, Valentine's Day, 11/11 sales, and so on. You can also consider partnerships to boost your content, like collaborating with other businesses within your industry or outside your industry, so you can both grow your audiences together. Then think about the format of your content. Will you create some videos or post photos or post some polls? Some other things you can consider is going live, like hosting Q&A sessions or workshops on Facebook Live. If you're on platforms like Instagram, take advantage of Instagram stories, a highly effective way to engage with your audience. Lastly, you can consider placing social media ads, sponsored content. Depending on your budget, you can decide between broad campaigns or hyper-targeted campaigns. Let's look at best practices now. So I have some ideas here for you to generate more leads through social media, like creating social media contests, hosting live videos, developing a unique hashtag, and having a clear call to action for your content. And to maximize engagement on your social media content, try to share expertise, news, or ideas. Ask questions, mix media, use mentions, and use hashtags. Most importantly, visual content is more than 40 times, more than 40 times more likely to get shared on social media than any other type. In this example here, Amazon responded to their customers' posts about their brand in a funny and witty manner. This is a brilliant example of a brand leveraging user-generated content creatively. What Amazon did was simply to respond to a user's tweets about their brand and share it on a different social media platform. In this example, they replied to a tweet on Instagram by posting the reply in the caption. This combines two social media marketing tactics, the use of humor and cross-channel promotion. Moreover, it makes people feel special as a brand replies to their comments and posts in such a public manner. Next, let's talk about crisis management. This is where many businesses struggle, big or small. Here are a few things to keep in mind. First, practice social awareness of what is going on social media. What are hot topics or trigger events that are happening? If there's a national crisis going on that day, it would not be a good time to talk about your buy one, get one free promotion. On the other hand, if something funny or positive is happening, maybe you can jump on that trending hashtag and offer something new to new consumers. Develop a standard response plan for your business. When, in what situations should you go dark on Twitter? And how do you want to respond to hot topics, even if that response means not doing anything or saying anything? Second, consider inclusive content, such as inclusive advertising. Third, remember that your personal brand as an individual is associated with your business's brand, especially for business owners like yourselves. So it's a good habit to add a disclaimer like "views are my own" on your personal social profiles. Fourth, the pandemic has impacted all of us and especially small businesses. So pivot as you need to in order to engage your audiences virtually and continue establishing trust in your brand, especially for newcomers. When it comes to crisis management, it's also really important to train your employees on how to de-escalate situations online and offline. Employees should also be aware of social media content on your channels so they know what a customer is talking about, or if you have a promotion on social media, your store employees should be aware of it. Last but not least, please respond to your reviews, positive or negative. If it's a positive review, thank the customer. If it's a negative review, Thank them anyway, and then follow this 3-step formula. First, acknowledge the review and apologize, even if you think you didn't do anything wrong. Second, add a touch of specific information to show you're paying attention to their review and it's not just a canned response. Third, move the situation offline. A public and anonymous review platform is not the place to defend yourself or get into an argument. Always be courteous and professional because many customers today will judge a business based on how they respond to negative reviews or complaints. Here is an exercise you can do to regularly evaluate the content on your social media channels. Ask yourself questions like, what is the content goal? What is your content goal for this platform? Are you trying to drive more email subscriptions? Are you trying to gain more followers? Who is your audience on the platform? What's your content strategy? What's your content schedule? How is the audience engaging with your content? Which content performs better on this platform? And what's your call to action for your content? What action do you want a viewer to take after they look at something you've posted? I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock. Again, please feel free to put any thoughts in chat or questions in the Q&A section. I'm going to pause for a minute so you can take a look at this worksheet, maybe jot down some thoughts to get started on it, or read it so you can do it later. All right, so now that the minute is up, let's move on to the next section. Let's talk about audience and community engagement. By connecting and engaging with your social media followers, you'll be able to build lasting relationships between them and your business. You can do this by interacting with them on your posts, responding to their questions and comments, and providing them with any help they may need. You can also ask your followers questions about your products, their pain points, or create giveaways to help you build trust and show them how much you value their input and support. There are 3 types of classic audience and community engagement: influencers, employee advocacy, and user-generated content. Social media influencers can have a wide range of followers. Sometimes micro-influencers who have the right audience, even if it's smaller, might be more relevant to you than someone with a very large base of followers who may not be your target audience. And remember, your customers are very important influencers among their own social circles. And in some cases, your employees are also an extension of your business brand. For example, employees who show pride in their workplace or share behind the scenes photos or videos on social media while they're at work can help establish your brand online. Like, what is the behind the scenes moments of your favorite nail salon? How is your restaurant's most popular dish made? Now, remember the funny Amazon example from a couple of slides ago? User-generated content is a strategy that can be used by any brand in any industry. All you have to do is use social media listening to track your brand mentions and find conversations about your brand. Then find witty comments to reply to some of those and post them on your social media. if it suits your business brand. This will benefit you in several ways. First, you don't need to create social media content from scratch, as you can leverage user-generated content. Second, it encourages more customers to post about your brand to get a chance to be featured on your page. And third, it keeps your audience engaged and personally connected to your brand. Let's look at a couple of examples of community engagement. First, in collaboration with Hasbro, an international nonprofit known as Design for Change USA encouraged kids and their parents to share an act of kindness online. For every kind act shared with #DoGoodFromHome, Hasbro donated a toy or game to organizations providing care to the children of COVID-19 essential workers. In another example, after being closed since mid-March last year, the Denver Museum of Art reopened in June. All visitors were required to wear a face mask or cover before entering the museum. To drive this concept home for incoming visitors, they featured social media images of people wearing masks on their website homepage. All right, now you have all the foundational concepts to get you started. There was a lot of information covered in this webinar, so please download the presentation PDF that will be shared with you after this. I hope that you can continue to use this as a reference file as you develop and improve your social media marketing plans. So where do you go from here? First, you should develop your strategy. What are your business goals? Who's your audience? Who's your competition? Which social media platforms do you want to be on? Develop an action plan with SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, like increase Facebook followers by 50% in 3 months, or increase my conversion rate by 20% from Instagram posts to filling in consultation forms. Decide what are 2 to 3 things you want to focus on first. Second, audit your presence online. Do you have an official website? What do you find when you Google your business? Is that search result correct? Are there reviews online that people find when they Google you? And did you respond to those reviews appropriately? Do you have a place for people to get help or write reviews? If you don't, you should. Set your baseline so you know if you're improving or not. Third, listen and engage. Use social media monitoring to listen to your audience. What are they saying? What do they care about? And engage with your audience. Talk to them. Ask for ideas and feedback. Build a sense of community, even if it's just with a hashtag of food from your restaurant or purchases from your shop. Fourth, keep improving. Track your progress weekly or monthly. Is your action plan working? If not, what can you change? Keep trying and keep improving. To help you measure success, here is a quick reference chart of 10 of the most important social media metrics for you to track. But for your sales goals, you may also want to track conversion rates against social media. We have metrics like engagement, reach, followers, impressions, and so on. In terms of conversion rate, that means the number of conversions divided by the total number of visitors. For example, if your e-commerce site receives 200 visitors in a month and has 50 sales, the conversion rate would be 50 divided by 200, or 25%. A conversion can refer to any desired action that you want the user to take. Lastly, here are some additional resources that you can look at, from strategic planning kits to SEO articles and case studies. And this is my email address in case you want to reach out to me with any questions or feedback. Thank you so much for listening to this webinar. The Asian American Business Development Center will send out the replay in a follow-up email after this webinar. Thank you so much for attending. Good luck with your social media marketing. And are there any questions? I see a couple of questions in the chat and a couple of questions in Q&A, so I will start answering those. If you have any additional questions, feel free to put that in chat or Q&A or reach out to me later. The first question is, if I target professionals to promote events, should I use funny content or just informative words? So great question, because two parts. First, what is the brand of your business? If your business brand is to be funny, then absolutely you can use funny content. But if your brand is not leaning that way, and suddenly trying to be funny would sort of conflict against what you're trying to build your image in your audience's head, then I would not recommend funny content. If you're trying to pivot your brand, of course, I think that could be a good strategy. But it depends on your brand, and it also depends on your audience. So I hope that answered your question. If not, feel free to write a follow-up question in chat or in the Q&A. The second question is, should we use emojis in content? I think that on social media, emojis are pretty much a native language, so I would encourage the use of emojis. You can see in the IBM brand handles, even though our audiences are primarily B2B and it's a really professional type of content, we still use emojis. So absolutely, I recommend using emojis in your content for most social media platforms, like if it's a LinkedIn post, but not necessarily a LinkedIn email or LinkedIn message. If it's on Facebook, Instagram, things like that, then absolutely yes. So yes, in most cases, and no if it's like an email or a LinkedIn message. Let's see the other questions. How do you research trending hashtags to align with your media posts? Now, there are some great free resources online that are available for you to search hashtags. What I personally like doing is just going to the Twitter homepage and seeing what are the top trending hashtags for that day. Alternatively, you can use a generic hashtag that you know is popular in your industry. For example, if you're a restaurant serving burgers, you could use hashtag burgers on Instagram or Twitter and see what other hashtags show up related to that very generic hashtag, and you'll be able to see what other things are trending. And of course, there are many free websites and free tools online available for you as well. The next question is, how often should you post content? Now, this answer depends on which platform you're talking about, and also how often your audience is on that platform. So for example, if you're looking at LinkedIn, I would recommend posting no more than 2 to 5 times a week as a general rule of thumb. Of course, it depends on if you have any events running or trying to promote a webinar or something like that. But if you're talking about Twitter, then it's possible that you could post multiple times a day or once a day, but it's not something that I would recommend for a platform like LinkedIn or Facebook. Facebook might be once a day, and on platforms like Yelp and Google reviews, obviously you wouldn't necessarily be posting content so much as, making sure you respond to reviews, all complaints are addressed, that you're taking conversations offline where you need to. I hope that answered the questions that I've seen so far. If any of these questions need any clarification, please feel free to put it in chat or in Q&A, or contact me after. All right, I see another question. How important is SEO to social media? I would say so important. If your posts aren't findable, if your brand isn't findable, then you're not talking to your audience, right? In some cases, you might just be talking to yourself or the few people that are, really following you already. So make sure that when you develop the SEO for your website or for a company, that you're reflecting those keywords in your, for example, Instagram bio profile, and on your Twitter profile. If you use Twitter for a company, ensure that you have the relevant hashtags in that bio. That's a great way to make yourself more searchable. If it's LinkedIn, then make sure you're really taking advantage of LinkedIn's SEO algorithm by having keywords in your description and your headline and all of that. And that goes the same for your personal LinkedIn profile as a business owner for your company as well. SEO is paramount in all things social media, just like for websites and digital marketing overall. And I see another question. What are some mistakes we have made that we can learn from? That's a great question. I think the mistake, like one great mistake, because actually all mistakes are great because we learn from them. One great mistake was to have an editorial calendar and stick to it regardless of the response to what you're getting from those posts. So for example, if you have an event coming up in 2 months, let's say, and you've decided that you're going to post, for example, 3 times a day on Facebook with this type of content, and you've pre-planned all of that content, you start posting and you're not getting responses, you're not getting engagement, but you keep posting anyway because it's already in your editorial plan. You've done the work. So you just keep posting. And at the end of it, you'll see that, oh, you posted, for example, 90 posts, but you got really little engagement. You didn't grow your followers and you didn't meet your targets. So the mistake that I've definitely personally made, especially in the beginning of my social media career, was not adapting quickly enough, not, making a plan and just sticking to it without really stopping almost every day, and every day in most cases for social media, and asking myself if it's working, if this message is resonating with the audience. If it's not, then, you need to respond to that. You need to ask yourself, what can you change? And start making changes, make 1 or 2 changes at a time, see if that helps improve things. If not, try something else. So a mistake could be just making a plan and sticking to it without modifying based on the performance of your plan. Another question I just see is, any advice for other companies that might add unsolicited comments to your posts that are not customers? Should you block or should you do something else? Now, I think that it is important to tread carefully here. It depends on the situation. And honestly, it might be case by case basis in a lot of these situations. For example, if a website or a page is clearly just spamming, if it's, just promoting a random website or promoting a random product, then that's completely irrelevant. And, if you can identify it as a bot, then I would say, yeah, you can delete or report spam or block. I would recommend reporting spam instead. On the other hand, if it is an actual user who is posting content on your posts or trying to, get heard for a different product or something like that, or promote a different product, then I would say in a lot of these cases, it's important to recognize and acknowledge that everyone has freedom of speech on the internet, and there are ways to respond creatively. It's an opportunity to respond creatively, professionally, or thank them for their comment, thank them for their feedback, or anything like that. Yeah, so I hope that was helpful. Again, if any of my answers were unclear or you'd like a follow-up on any of that, feel free to put it in chat or in the Q&A. And you have my email in the replay and the PDF of this presentation that will be circulated. Feel free to refer to that and reach out if you have any questions. All right. So, I see more questions coming in chat. So let's see. I'm having trouble reaching new customers. What would you recommend? I also paid for Google Ads. How much do we pay for ads? So 2 questions in one here. First, how much you pay for ads really depends on the budget of your business. I did mention briefly in the presentation that there are 2 types of typical social media ad campaigns. One is broad targeting and one is hyper targeting. Now, broad targeting is usually the more affordable option because you're sort of like saying, these are the general demographics of people that I want to target in a certain platform. So it's broader. Hyper targeted means that you're very specific about who you think is most likely to click on the ad and make that purchase. Those are generally the more expensive ads. How much it costs really depends on how competitive the area is that you're bidding keywords for, especially for Google Ads, and also how large that targeting is. So I can't say how much you should pay per day. I think that really depends on the specific situation of your business. Feel free to reach out to me by email separately, and perhaps I can point you to some resources. As for what I recommend to reach new customers, I recommend following the plan that we've walked through in this webinar. I think that if you follow the best practices, develop that action plan, you will no doubt be able to, reach your goals better. And if not, you'll hopefully have the tools to help you figure out what is the gap in your plan, like what's causing this disconnect between your great plan and like actually getting results. Sometimes it takes a lot of troubleshooting. Social media is alive, right? It's always changing. And you have to respond quickly as it changes all the time, and everyone is different. And different businesses in different industries are different as well. Let's see. How do you deal with trolls attempting to extort through negative reviews? Yelp or Google users requesting compensation, or they'll keep writing bad reviews. That seems like something that should be reported through Yelp and to Google. I would say document everything, take screenshots, save those emails, and report it to the proper channels. Because that, frankly, I don't think you should attempt to deal with it directly. I think that is something that should be reported. But, send me an email. I'm happy to look that up and see if there is a documented proper way to report incidents like that. And I am sorry that you are dealing with that. I see a few more questions. One says, we use Google, My Business, Facebook, and Yelp. When customers write a review on Yelp, it seems that it's being blocked. Why is that? Their reviews should not be blocked on Yelp. It seems like something that might be a Yelp technical issue or an error that's happening. To that person who asked that question, have you spoken to your Yelp representative or Yelp customer service to see what's happening there? It would help if there were screenshots or sort of like documentation to show that it's being blocked. Let's see. Do you have any preferred social media tools, mainly for post planning and measuring metrics? Now, the awesome answer to that is there are so many tools available now. Some are free and some come at some at different levels of cost. I compiled a whole bunch of links and resources in the resources page in the deck so that you can click through and read about the different options. There are many, many different options today. way more than when I was running my own business back in 2008. So I recommend reading through those articles and then deciding based on that. Let's see. A few more questions. Can you expand on why you should only use a couple of social media sites when starting out instead of branching out to all of the major ones? So, great question. The reason I advise that is because I've seen small businesses try to do too much all at once when they're starting out. And that often, honestly, less is more. If you pick, for example, let's say you just pick two platforms, Facebook and Instagram, but you do those really well, it's way more impactful of an experience for someone to visit your Facebook page, visit your Instagram page, see updated on brand posts. And when they comment, when they like stuff, you engage with them. They follow you, you may follow them back. You may view their stories, you may interact with them. And to be able to do all those things are way more meaningful than just having a sort of like really cursory presence on like 12 different platforms. Now, if you do have the level of expertise, time, and energy to be on all the major platforms, I absolutely recommend that. I absolutely think that is ideally the goal. But for small businesses who are just starting out, since this is a social media marketing 101 type of webinar, I just want to tread carefully and recommend taking baby steps at first and not trying to immediately do everything all at once, as it can get overwhelming for people who are really new to social media. What is my email again? It will be shared in the PowerPoint that will be circulated after. And also, Nan has been wonderful in replying to chat as well. And I think that's all the questions, unless another one pops up. Nan, do you want to answer about the recording URL? Yes, you will get the URL to the recording. It will be a video replay as well as the PowerPoint circulated as well. And for those of you who prefer to read the accompanying webinar, a transcript is available upon request as well, because I know a lot of content was covered and quite quickly. The webinar replay will be shared on YouTube and also emailed to you. The YouTube link will be emailed to you. With that, I think I'll wait another minute in case there are additional questions. And then we can wrap up. So I'll just wait a little bit. All right, I think we don't have any more questions for now. Thank you so much to all of you for attending, and thank you to everyone who asked a question. Again, my email address is available. I will try to respond within a couple of days for any of you who do email me. And thank you so much, and good luck with your social media marketing.